Today I want to look at the lines of your profiles in the context of the motivations of the lines in your profiles so that you can start looking at, are you getting your needs met? Are you getting the motivations and the drives that your lines in your profiles need in order to feel grounded and sustained? So here's the deal. Your profile is an essential part of your chart. Your profile tells you a lot about your learning style. It tells you a lot about your life purpose, and it tells you a lot about what you need, what drives you, what motivates you, and how you can get those needs met in order for you to be able to be more aligned with your authentic self-expression. So I'm going to go through the motivations of the lines in the profile. I want to just break down what each of the lines in your profile mean. There are 12 profiles. Each profile has 2 lines in it. So as I go through this, listen to both of the motivations and drives for the lines in your profile and contemplate, if you will, how you need to get both of those lines, the needs of both of those lines met. Sometimes you might find that some of the needs in the lines of the profiles vary. That some of the motivations of the lines in your profile seem kind of at odds with each other. The trick is oftentimes learning how to find the harmony between the needs and the motivations and the drives of both of the lines in your profiles. That's part of your soul curriculum. That's part of what you're here to learn. And learning how to dial into your own inner connection to those motivations and drives, and really starting to pay attention to what happens when one of those lines isn't getting its needs met. How does it play out in the other line is a very interesting journey of self-exploration. And certainly understanding the motives and drives can help you figure out if one of your lines is feeling out of balance, what it perhaps needs to restore and regenerate its energy. So I'm going to go through the lines, take notes. So the line 1, which is a line that I like to call the resource. The line 1 is a foundational line. It is a foundational intrapersonal line, meaning it's a line that has built into it a need for time for self-reflection, contemplation, and inner explorations. The line 1 has a deep need for information. It builds a foundation of information, and it needs to have a foundation of information to feel stable. So if you are a line 1, part of your motivation and your drive is to research, to study, to learn, to be curious, and to give yourself the time and the permission to really go deep into your exploration around information. If you're trying to make a decision as a line 1 without having a base of information, it can feel really unsettling and destabilizing. So the line 1 has a motivation or a drive of exploration through knowledge. The line 2, which sometimes in traditional human design we call the hermit, the line 2 has a deep need or a motivation for downtime. It has a deep need for alone time that allows it to restore, restock, replenish, regenerate its energy. When you have a line 2 energy as part of your profile, you need time to integrate. You need time, downtime, alone time to absorb everything that you've learned and experienced. I find oftentimes the second line all appears in conjunction with a chart that's oftentimes very sensitive. And so that alone time sort of counterbalances some of the sensitivity in the rest of the chart so that you can really get reconnected to yourself in the context of the energy that you've experienced. So the motivation or the drive for line 2 is renewal. It needs time for renewal in order to integrate what it knows so that it can better share what it's experienced. The line 3 are exploratory learners. When you're a third line, you need to go out and try things. That's your job. That's part of your motivation, is you've got to try it. You're curious, but not in a cognitive way. You're curious in an experiential way. You got to go experience it, really be in the situation in order to know what works and what doesn't. So you are an experiential learner. The motivation or the drive for the third line is exploration. And I love the theme of exploration versus getting it right, because the third line always does eventually get it right, if you will. It is through the process of exploration that the third line actually perfects its knowledge base, its understanding, its ability to share with others what works and what doesn't. But you can't get there if you don't let yourself explore. So if you're shutting down the exploration, if you're shutting down the trying part as a third line, you're actually cutting yourself off from an essential part of your wisdom, and you're disconnecting yourself from your motivation and your drive. The fourth line is another foundational line. This is the foundational line of transpersonal energy. So the fourth line builds a foundation and it's a transpersonal foundation. It's a foundation that's built from depth of understandings of relationships. So the fourth line isn't necessarily always going to have a network of friends everywhere, but the fourth line definitely has a network of deep, close friends and a deep foundation that revolves around intimate relationships in their life. The fourth line also has a secondary drive, and that secondary drive is a drive for stability. The fourth line needs stability. The fourth line is terrified of limbo. And if you are working with a fourth line profile, or you yourself are a fourth line profile, that opportunistic aspect of the fourth line that we talk about in traditional human design is really more not so much being opportunistic or being an opportunist. I can't say that word this morning, opportunist. The fourth line is really craving stability. So they don't make change till they know what they're changing into. They don't make leaps until they know what they're leaping towards. And that's essential for the fourth line, because if they don't have that stability, if they're leaping off into the unknown, or if you're leaping off into the unknown and you are a fourth line, you need that extra help, that extra support that lets you know how you're going to go through this transformational process and end up where you're going to end up. The fourth line ultimately gets very, very good at making change over time because they get practice. They start building a foundation of changeability because they get enough experience to know how to make change. But especially in the beginning of their lives, that fourth line abhors limbo, and they really need to have a plan, if you will, a drive that allows them to build a plan so that they know exactly what's the next right step. The fifth line is a very interesting line. It's a line that oftentimes doesn't get the opportunity to live in its highest expression because of the projection field of the fifth line. The fifth line in the wrong place with the wrong people, or a lifetime pattern of being in the wrong place with the wrong people and having trauma to a sense of value because of being in the wrong projection field, can really cause the fifth line to hide out and not fulfill the true purpose and the motivation of their line, that line. The fifth line in its highest expression is a visionary leader. The fifth line has an innate potential to see the potential of others. It's in the fifth line, the projection of the fifth line, that they see the potential and the possibility for others. So the fifth line has a little bit of a tendency, much like some projectors, to fall in love with other people's potentials. And that falling in love with their potential and not actually looking at what they're doing can cause them to step into the wrong projection field, to step into a field of expectations from others, and then, of course, not be able to meet the expectations of others, because that's not their job. You're not here to meet other people's expectations. You're here to live true to yourself. In order to live true to yourself, the fifth line has to be with the right people, in the right place. They have to see the potential of others, but they also need to take their time and watch carefully and make sure the people you're with are actually walking their talk. If you are with the right people and you are seeing the potential and you are able to hold that template, then part of your role as a fifth line is to support others in stepping into the fulfillment of their full potential, which means you are a leader. You are somebody who is here to see the full possibility of what could be taking place and to walk people into it, to give them the information, to compel them to follow you so that they can move into the fulfillment of what else is possible. So as a leader and a visionary leader, because that fifth line also has, like the second line, a need for renewal, that fifth line energy also needs time to watch, time to pay attention, time to reflect, time to be cautious and conscious of the relationships that they're in, so that they are really making sure that before they contribute that leadership energy, they are with the right people who are actually fulfilling the full potential of their potential, or at least taking steps towards fulfilling the full potential of their potential. The sixth line has, of course, the triphasic life cycle. So in the first part of their life, they act very much like a third line. So they have a need for exploration. They have a need to go try things. And if that gets shut down because of the self-judgment, oftentimes around making a mistake, And it's easy for the six lines to judge themselves because six lines are here on a mission and they know they're on a mission usually from around the time that they're 4 years old. They take their life very, very seriously. And so the quote unquote failures of the third line phase are very hard sometimes for the sixth line. So they need to understand that they need to explore and they need to have experience. And sometimes they need to kind of blow things up in their youth because that's an essential part of their learning process. When they go up on the roof between the ages of 30 and 50, then the need becomes very much like a second and a fifth line. They have a deep need for aloneness, for renewal, for learning how to learn. They are integrating what they've experienced. They're watching others. They're seeing what works. They're seeing what doesn't. They are healing. And they are storing up energy for the next phase in their life, which happens around 50 when they emerge into the world as the role model. I like to call them adepts. And it's really through the experience or the full expression of their authentic self that they lead others. There's nothing you have to do as a sixth line necessarily, although they all feel compelled to save the world. It's really more who you be that creates a body of information, if you will. Your life as a sixth sign is a body of information. It's a way of living completely true to your authentic self with little compromise. There's no room for compromise to be inauthentic when you're a sixth sign. It's in the process of living a fully authentic life that you show others what it looks like to be fully authentic. So the drive, if you will, the motivation for that sixth sign is relentless authenticity. It is essential for the sixth line because if they start to do something that isn't authentic, if they fake it, if they have to make small talk and talk about things that are not interesting to them, that's the death knell to the sixth line. They can't even find the energy for it, especially when they're on the roof. It's like, I don't want to have small talk. I don't want to do little tiny conversations. The sixth line wants to have deep, rich, meaningful conversations. And if those conversations aren't really authentic, the sixth line really doesn't have the energy for it. So the driver for the sixth line is authenticity. And of course, it's going to vary depending on what phase that sixth line is in, but they really have a movement towards, over the span of their life, a movement towards deep, authentic self-expression. And that's essential as part of who they are and what they're here to do with their life. So these are the drivers, if you will, for the lines of the profile. Take that information, look at your own profile, think about the two lines that we just talked about and how perhaps those motives and those drives from those lines might be impacting you. And I really want to encourage you and invite you to reflect on, are you getting what you need based on the codes in your profiles? Are you getting what you need in order for you to stay sustainable, enduring, and excited about your coaching practice and about your life? And be well. Talk to you soon.